The morning sun broke through the blinds as Andre Hayes stared at the ceiling of his new apartment. 3 days back in his hometown, and everything felt both familiar and strange at the same time. 15 years was a long time to be away. Andre ran his hand over the scar on his forearm, a reminder from a mission in Kandahar that had nearly cost him his life. After 8 deployments and countless operations that would never make the history books, he was finally a civilian again. At 38, he wasn't old, but he felt it in his bones some mornings. Just another adjustment period, he muttered to himself as he rolled out of bed. The military had taught him that routine was sanctuary. Wake up, exercise, shower, eat, work, one foot in front of the other until the new normal took hold. The small apartment was sparsely furnished. Just a bed, a couch, a kitchen table with 2 chairs, and a bookshelf with military history and tactical manuals. Andre hadn't accumulated much during his years of service. Possessions meant attachment, and attachment could be dangerous when you might need to move out on short notice. He went through his morning workout methodically. Push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups on the bar he'd installed in the doorway. Each movement was precise, controlled, the product of years of discipline. His body was a tool he'd learned to rely on, a weapon he'd honed to perfection. After a quick shower, Andre dressed in simple jeans and a plain blue t-shirt. He caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror and paused. The face looking back at him was weathered by sun and stress, with lines around the eyes that hadn't been there when he'd left town all those years ago. His dark skin was a shade lighter in places where scars had healed. The buzz cut was the same as always, one habit from military life he couldn't seem to shake. Time to join the real world, he told his reflection with a half smile. The town of Riverdale had changed since he'd grown up here. Main Street, once bustling with family businesses, now featured more empty storefronts than open shops. The old movie theater where he'd had his first kiss was now a dollar store. The factory on the edge of town, where his father had worked for 30 years, had closed down, leaving hundreds without jobs. Andre walked into Joe's diner, the one place that looked exactly as he remembered it. The bell above the door announced his arrival, and several heads turned to look at the newcomer. A few curious stares lingered longer than necessary. "What can I get you?" The waitress, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a kind smile, approached his table. "Coffee black, and whatever breakfast special you've got," Andre replied. "You're new around here," she said. It wasn't a question. "Actually, I grew up here. Just been gone a while." Her eyes narrowed slightly as she studied his face. "Hayes, little Andre Hayes? My goodness, you were just a skinny kid last time I saw you." Andre smiled genuinely for the first time in days. "Mrs. Wilson, you remember me." "Of course I do. You used to help my Tommy with his math homework. Now look at you, all grown up. Military, right?" Andre nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Just finished my service." "Well, welcome home, son. Breakfast is on the house today." As Mrs. Wilson walked away, Andre noticed a group of men at the counter watching him. There was nothing friendly in their stares. One of them, a burly man with a shaved head and tattoos creeping up his neck, whispered something to his companions, and they snickered. Andre had seen that look before. In villages across Afghanistan and Iraq, the look of people who decided they hated you before they knew a single thing about you. He turned his attention back to the menu, letting the tension slide off him like water. He hadn't come home looking for trouble. After breakfast, Andre walked to the small office building where he'd be starting work next week. Richardson Security Consultants wasn't much to look at from the outside, but the owner, Bill Richardson, was an old friend of Andre's father and had offered him a job site unseen. "There he is." Bill's booming voice filled the modest reception area as Andre entered. He was a bear of a man with a silver beard and a firm handshake. Pete's boy, all grown up and ready to scare the daylights out of would-be thieves. Andre smiled as Bill clapped him on the shoulder. "Thanks for the opportunity, Mr. Richardson. Call me Bill, son. And don't thank me yet. You haven't seen what I'm paying you." He laughed heartily. "Come on back, let me show you around." The tour didn't take long. The company provided security assessments for local businesses and homes, plus a small team of guards for events and stores that needed the extra protection. It wasn't exactly what Andre had trained for in Special Forces, but it was honest work, and right now, that was enough. "How's your dad doing out in Arizona?" Bill asked as they settled in his office. "Better. The dry air helps his lungs. He and Mom have a small place in a retirement community. Good, good. He was the best damn mechanic this town ever had. Wasn't the same after he left. Bill leaned forward, his expression growing serious. Listen, Andre. Town's changed since you were a kid. Economy's been hit hard. When people are struggling, they look for someone to blame. Andre nodded. I noticed. There's a group of fellas call themselves the Heritage Defense League or some such nonsense. Started as just talk, but they've been getting bolder. Vandalism, intimidation. Police chief doesn't take it seriously enough if you ask me. I'm not looking for trouble, Bill. I know that, but trouble has a way of finding certain folks these days. Bill's eyes were apologetic. Just watch your back, all right? Andre thanked him for the warning and the job, promising to be ready to start on Monday. As he left the office, he felt the weight of unseen eyes on him. He'd survived war zones and hostile territories. He could handle a struggling small town. Still, he made a mental note to be more aware of his surroundings. The apartment felt emptier when he returned. Andre unpacked the few boxes he'd brought with him, arranging his books and the handful of photographs he kept. One showed his unit in Afghanistan, arms around each other's shoulders, dusty and tired but alive. Another was of his parents on their 40th anniversary. The third was of a woman with bright eyes and a smile that still made his chest ache. Vanessa, the fiancée who couldn't handle the long deployments and had moved on years ago. As evening approached, Andre decided to walk downtown to pick up groceries. The air was cooling and the streets were quiet. He noticed a group of men loitering outside the bar on the corner, the same ones from the diner that morning. They fell silent as he passed, their eyes following him. In the grocery store, Andre methodically selected items, simple foods he could prepare easily, nothing fancy. Years of military rations had lowered his expectations for meals. As he reached for a loaf of bread, he became aware of a presence beside him. Excuse me, a soft voice said. Could you reach that box of cereal up there? I'm a bit too short. Andre turned to see a woman pointing to the top shelf. She was about his age, with warm brown eyes and natural hair pulled back in a colorful scarf. No problem. He easily grabbed the cereal and handed it to her. Thanks. I haven't seen you around before. Just moved back. I grew up here, really? Me too, but I don't remember you. I left a long time ago. Military. Understanding dawned in her eyes. That explains the posture. I'm Layla, by the way. Layla Washington. I teach at the elementary school. Andre Hayes. Well, Andre Hayes, welcome back to Riverdale. Though I should warn you, it's not the town it used to be. So I've heard. Their conversation was interrupted by a crash at the front of the store. A young stockboy had dropped a display of canned goods. What caught Andre's attention wasn't the accident, but the reaction of the manager, a red-faced man who began berating the boy with language that made several customers flinch. Without thinking, Andre moved toward them. Everything all right here? His voice was calm but carried an authority that made the manager pause. Mind your business, the manager snapped. This idiot just cost me money. Accidents happen, Andre said, kneeling to help the boy pick up the cans. No harm done? The manager looked like he wanted to argue but seemed to think better of it when he got a closer look at Andre's size and the steady gaze that had made insurgents reconsider their choices. Just clean it. Up, the manager muttered before walking away. Thanks, mister, the boy whispered. Andre nodded and returned to his shopping, aware that Layla was watching him with newfound interest. That was kind of you, she said as they both headed to the checkout. Andre shrugged. Kid didn't deserve that. Not everyone would have stepped in. Too busy minding their own business, she smiled. Maybe I'll see you around, Andre Hayes. As Andre walked home with his groceries, he reflected on the day. This town had changed, and not for the better. But beneath the surface, there were still good people like Mrs. Wilson and Layla. Maybe coming home hadn't been a mistake after all. What he didn't notice was the car that followed him at a distance, or the man inside taking pictures with his phone. The trouble Bill had warned him about was already taking notice, and Andre's training was about to be put to use in ways he hadn't anticipated when he'd hung up his uniform. But tonight, he would eat a simple dinner, read a few chapters of his book, and go to bed early. Tomorrow was another day in civilian life, a life he was still learning how to live. Andre's first week back in Riverdale settled into an uneasy rhythm. Each morning he woke before sunrise. A habit 15 years in the military had burned into him. He'd run 5 miles through the SE, Leaping town, watching the first light touch the old water tower and abandoned factory. By the time most people were hitting their snooze buttons, he'd already showered and prepared for the day ahead. His job at Richardson Security turned out to be more interesting than he'd expected. Bill had put him to work evaluating security systems for local businesses, and Andre found he had a knack for spotting vulnerabilities others missed. "You've got a good eye," Bill told him on Friday afternoon as they reviewed Andre's assessment of the local credit union. "Most guys just check if the cameras work and call it a day." Andre shrugged. "I spent years figuring out how to get into places without being seen. Makes it easier to spot the weak points." Bill looked at him with newfound respect. "What exactly did you do in the military, son?" "Officially? Special Forces Operator, Counterterrorism Unit." Andre's voice was matter-of-fact without pride or boasting. "Unofficially? Let's just say I went places the government needed someone to go and did things they needed someone to do." Bill whistled low. "Well, their loss is my gain. Got another job for you next week. The high school wants a full security assessment. After those shootings in Texas last year, everyone's on edge." As Andre gathered his things to leave, Bill added casually, "Some of us are having a barbecue on Sunday. Nothing fancy, just a few friends. You should come." The invitation caught Andre off guard. He'd spent the week keeping to himself, trying to readjust to civilian life without complications. But he recognized the extended hand of friendship for what it was. "I'd like that." "Thanks." Walking home, Andre took the long route through the park. Children played on swings while parents watched from nearby benches. Normal life, peaceful. This was what he'd fought for, wasn't it? The right for people to live ordinary lives without fear. A familiar voice called his name, pulling him from his thoughts. "Andre, I thought that was you." Layla Washington, the teacher he'd met at the grocery store, was walking toward him with a stack of papers under one arm. "Grading on a Friday night?" he asked, nodding toward the papers. She laughed. "The glamorous life of a third-grade teacher. 28 book reports on Charlotte's Web." "Sounds riveting." "Oh, you'd be surprised. Kids have interesting perspectives." She fell into step beside him. "How's your first week back been?" "Quiet, started my new job. Learning the town again." "That's right, Bill mentioned he hired Pete Hayes' son. Security consultant, right?" Andre nodded. "Small town. Everyone knows everything." "Blessing and a curse," Layla agreed. They walked in comfortable silence for a moment before she added, "Some of us are grabbing dinner at Tony's Pizza tonight. Nothing fancy, just friends catching up. You're welcome to join." Andre hesitated. He'd planned a quiet night in, maybe watch an old movie, keep to his routine. But there was something about Layla's easy manner that made him reconsider. "Sure, what time?" Her smile brightened her whole face. 7. "And fair warning, they'll ask about your military service." "I'm used to it." They parted ways at the park exit, and Andre continued home with a lighter step than before. Maybe reconnecting with the town wouldn't be as hard as he'd thought. Back at his apartment, Andre took a quick shower and changed into fresh clothes. As he was locking his door, a neighbor emerged from the apartment across the hall, an elderly man with a cane who eyed Andre with undisguised suspicion. "Evening," Andre offered politely. The man grunted in response. "You the new tenant?" "Yes, sir." "Andre Hayes." "Hayes?" The man's roomy eyes narrowed. "Pete Hayes' boy?" "That's right." The old man's expression softened slightly. "Your father fixed my Chevy back in '98. Good man, your dad." He extended a gnarled hand. "Walter Diaz, lived here 30 years. Andre shook his hand. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Diaz." "Word of advice, young man. Watch yourself in this town. It's changed." Walter tapped his cane on the floor for emphasis. "Some folks round here got mean when the jobs left. Looking for someone to blame. So I've heard." Walter nodded gravely. "They call themselves the Heritage Defense League. Bunch of hot-headed fools with too much time and not enough sense. Their leader, Rick Donovan, used to be foreman at the plant before it closed. Now he spends his days drinking and stirring up trouble." Andre thanked him for the warning and headed out. It was the third time someone had cautioned him about this group. Maybe it was time he learned more about them. Tony's Pizza was packed when Andre arrived. Friday night in a small town, everyone seeking the same escape from the work week. He spotted Layla waving from a corner booth where she sat with 3 others. "Everyone, this is Andre Hayes," she announced as he approached. "Andre, meet the gang. Ben Chen, my fellow teacher. Darlene Cooper from the library. and Luis Ortiz, who keeps our ancient school computers running. Handshakes and greetings were exchanged as Andre slid into the booth. The conversation flowed easily. Talk of local gossip, complaints about work, debates about the latest movies. Normal people living normal lives. Andre found himself relaxing, even laughing at Luis's animated story about a first grader who had accidentally set the school's internet filter to block everything except cat videos. "So, Andre," Ben said during a lull in the conversation, "Layla mentioned you were military? Special Forces. Just finished my last tour." "Man, that's intense," Luis said, impressed. "Like real combat and everything?" Andre nodded, taking a sip of his beer. 8 deployments. Afghanistan, Iraq, a few places I'm not supposed to talk about. "Must be weird being back here after all that," Darlene observed. "It's different," Andre admitted. "Over there, everything's heightened. Every decision matters. Here, it's mundane," Layla suggested. "Peaceful," Andre corrected with a small smile. "I'm still getting used to it." The conversation drifted to other topics, but Andre noticed the occasional curious glances from other diners. He was still a novelty in town, the returning local boy turned war hero or whatever story had spread through Riverdale's gossip network. The evening was winding down when the restaurant door banged open. A group of men entered loudly, already half drunk from an earlier stop at the bar down the street. Andre recognized the tattooed man from the diner his first day back. "Heads up," Luis muttered. Rick Donovan and his merry band of idiots just arrived. Andre watched as the men commandeered a table, shoving aside chairs and calling roughly for service. The waitress approached them with visible reluctance. "That's them? The Heritage Defense League?" Andre asked quietly. Layla nodded. "Their idea of community service is spray painting slurs on the community center wall." Rick Donovan's gaze swept the restaurant and locked onto Andre. Recognition flashed in his bloodshot eyes, followed by something darker. He whispered to his companions, who turned to stare at Andre with undisguised hostility. "Maybe we should go," Darlene suggested, noticing the exchange. "We were about to leave anyway," Layla agreed, reaching for her purse. They paid their bill and headed for the door. Andre deliberately positioned himself between his new friends and Donovan's table. As they passed, Donovan stuck out his foot, nearly tripping Luis. "Watch where you're going," Donovan sneered. Luis started to respond, but Andre placed a gentle hand on his shoulder and guided him forward. "Not worth it," he murmured. Outside, Luis was still fuming. "Those guys have been pulling this crap for years. Police don't do anything. They're just angry men looking for someone to blame," Andre said. "I've seen it before." "Well, I'm glad you were here," Layla said. "Rick has a habit of turning disagreements into fistfights." They said their goodbyes, and Andre offered to walk Layla home since they lived in the same direction. As they strolled through the quiet streets, she told him more about the town's decline after the factory closed. Half the stores downtown shut down. People who could leave did. Those who stayed got bitter. And Donovan's group gave them someone to blame, Andre finished. "Exactly. It started small, just talk at first. Then vandalism. Now they're getting bolder." She glanced at him. "Be careful, Andre. You're exactly the kind of person they resent, someone who got out, saw the world, made something of himself." When they reached her apartment building, Layla thanked him for walking her home. "Despite the unpleasant ending, I'm glad you came tonight. It's good to have you back in Riverdale." Andre smiled. "It's good to have a friend here." The walk back to his own apartment was peaceful, the streets quiet under a blanket of stars. Andre was more relaxed than he'd been all week. Tonight had reminded him that there was more to life than missions and survival. Maybe, just maybe, he could build something here. He was 2 blocks from home when he heard the engine, a pickup truck cruising slowly behind him, headlights off. Andre continued walking, his senses suddenly alert. He could hear multiple people in the vehicle, low voices, the occasional snicker. Without changing his pace, Andre took stock of his surroundings. Empty street, closed shops. The nearest open business was a gas station 3 blocks ahead. His apartment was closer, but leading them there wasn't smart. The truck accelerated slightly, pulling alongside him. Rick Donovan leaned out the passenger window. "Hey, soldier boy, we didn't get to properly welcome you home." Andre kept walking, eyes forward. Another time, "I'm headed home." "Now that's not friendly," Donovan said with mock hurt. "We just want to talk." The truck pulled ahead and stopped, blocking Andre's path. 4 men climbed out. Donovan and 3 others from the restaurant. Andre noted. Their positions, their stances, the bulge in one man's jacket that suggested a weapon. Like I said, Andre repeated calmly. Another time. Donovan stepped forward, alcohol giving him false courage. I remember you from school. You thought you were better than everyone even back then. Left town first chance you got. I serve my country, Andre replied evenly. Just like my father did. Just like yours did in Vietnam, if I remember right. The mention of his father made Donovan's face darken. Don't you talk about my father. You don't know nothing. I know he'd be ashamed to see his son acting like this. It was the wrong thing to say. Donovan's face contorted with rage as he lunged forward. You're gonna regret coming back here, he snarled. Andre stood his ground, hands relaxed at his sides. He didn't want to fight, but 15 years of combat experience had taught him that sometimes trouble finds you no matter what, and when it did, you had to be ready. Time seemed to slow as Andre faced the four men on the darkened street. His military training kicked in automatically, assessing each potential threat with cool precision. Donovan, the leader, was drunk and angry, dangerous but uncontrolled. The tall, skinny man to his left kept shifting his weight nervously. The heavy-set one on the right had his fists clenched, ready for action. The fourth man, hanging back slightly, was the one that concerned Andre most. His hand kept drifting toward his jacket pocket. Look, Andre said, keeping his voice calm and even. We all live in this town. We don't need trouble. Donovan laughed harshly. Should have thought about that before you came back here acting all high and mighty. Special forces, he mocked. What did you do, push papers? Andre didn't take the bait. He'd faced down warlords and terrorists. A small-town bully didn't rattle him, but he also knew the situation could turn deadly in seconds. I'm going to walk away now, Andre stated, his eyes never leaving Donovan's. We can all go home and forget this happened. I don't think so, Donovan spat. He nodded to his friends. Teach him some manners, boys. The heavy-set man moved first, charging forward like a bull. It was a clumsy attack that Andre could have countered in his sleep. He sidestepped smoothly, using the man's momentum against him with a simple redirect that sent him stumbling past. No punches thrown, no contact that could be called assault. The skinny man hesitated, seeing how easily his friend had been handled. Donovan cursed, "What are you waiting for? Get him!" The fourth man, the quiet one Andre had been watching, pulled something from his pocket. The streetlight gleamed off metal. A knife. That's enough, a new voice called out. Everyone turned to see a police cruiser pulling up, its lights flashing. The officer who stepped out was young, probably not long out of the academy. His hand rested cautiously on his holster. What's going on here? He demanded. Just having a chat with an old classmate, Officer Chen, Donovan said, his tone suddenly friendly. Right, Hayes? Andre noted the knife being quietly slipped back into a pocket. I was heading home, he said simply. Officer Chen looked between the groups, clearly understanding more than Donovan realized. It's late for a street reunion. Why don't you all call it a night? Donovan's eyes narrowed, but he nodded to his friends. Sure thing, officer. We were just leaving anyway. He turned to Andre. See you around, Hayes. The threat in his voice was unmistakable. The four men climbed back into their truck and drove off, tires squealing against the pavement. You all right? Officer Chen asked once they were gone. Fine, thanks. Good timing. Ben Chen's my brother. He texted me after dinner, said there might be trouble. The officer extended his hand. David Chen, welcome back to Riverdale. Andre shook it gratefully. Appreciate the assist. I'll give you a ride home, David offered. Those guys might circle back. In the police cruiser, David filled Andre in on the town situation. Donovan and his crew have been a problem for a while now. Started with petty stuff. Graffiti, harassing people they don't like. But they're escalating. Why hasn't anyone stopped them? David sighed. Chief Reynolds is old school. Doesn't take it seriously enough. Calls it boys being boys or just talk. By the time they do something he can't ignore, someone's going to get hurt. They pulled up to Andre's apartment building. Watch your back, David advised. And maybe consider carrying something for protection. Andre smiled slightly. I am something for protection. 15 years of combat training had turned his body into a weapon more effective than any gun. Fair enough. Still my number's in the system if you need it. Andre thanked him and headed inside. His encounter with Donovan left him alert. the peaceful feeling from dinner with Layla and her friends now replaced with a familiar tension. He checked his apartment carefully, old habits, before settling in for the night. Sleep didn't come easily. His mind kept replaying the confrontation, calculating what might have happened without Officer Chen's arrival. Around 3 a.m, he gave up and made coffee. As the sun rose, he decided to take a longer run than usual, pushing his body until the tension eased. When he returned, his neighbor Walter Diaz was in the hallway, struggling with a heavy grocery bag. "Let me help you with that, Mr. Diaz," Andre offered, taking the bag. "Much obliged," the old man said, unlocking his door. "These old bones don't work like they used to." Andre carried the groceries into the small apartment. The place was neat but lived in, with faded furniture and walls covered in family photos. Walter gestured toward the kitchen. "Just set them on the counter. Would you like some coffee? Just made a fresh pot." Andre accepted, and soon they were sitting in Walter's living room. The old man was more talkative than he'd first appeared. "Heard about your run-in with Donovan last night," Walter said, surprising Andre. "Word travels fast. Small town." Walter sipped his coffee. "I knew Rick when he was a boy. Not a bad kid back then. His father was tough on him. Mean drunk, liked to use his fists. The boy grew up thinking that's how men solve problems." Andre nodded. He'd seen it before, how violence breeds violence. "Doesn't excuse what he's doing now." "No, it doesn't," Walter agreed. "But sometimes understanding where the poison comes from helps find the antidote." He studied Andre thoughtfully. "You're not what they expected, you know." "What do you mean?" "They thought you'd be scared or angry. Instead, you're calm. It confuses them." Walter chuckled. "I was military too long time ago. Korea. I recognize the look, a man who's seen the worst humanity has to offer and isn't easily rattled." They talked for another hour, Walter sharing stories of the town from decades past and Andre listening respectfully. By the time he left, Andre had a deeper appreciation for his elderly neighbor. The rest of the weekend passed quietly. Andre attended Bill's barbecue on Sunday, meeting more of the town's residents who remembered him as a boy or knew his father. Some were welcoming, others reserved. He felt the divisions in the community, those who accepted change and those who resisted it, those who looked for someone to blame and those who tried to build something new from the ruins of what was lost. Monday morning brought a new assignment from Bill, the security assessment at the high school. Andre arrived early, checking in at the main office where he met the principal, Dr. Reynolds. "We've never needed this kind of thing before," she said as she walked him through the building. "But times change. Better to be prepared," Andre replied, already noting vulnerabilities, unlocked side doors, blind spots in hallways, outdated locks. As they turned a corner, Andre came face to face with Rick Donovan, who was mopping the floor. Surprise registered on both their faces. "Mr. Donovan is our head custodian," Dr. Reynolds explained, oblivious to the tension between the men. Andre nodded politely. "Morning." Donovan's eyes burned with resentment, but he merely grunted in response. Dr. Reynolds continued the tour, pointing out areas of concern while Andre made notes. Later, as Andre inspected the gymnasium alone, Donovan appeared in the doorway. "Didn't expect to see you here," Andre said calmly, continuing his work. "Been head custodian for 5 years," Donovan replied. "Since the factory shut down." He watched Andre for a moment. "You think you're better than me, don't you? With your fancy military career and your college degree?" Andre set down his clipboard. "I don't think anything about you, Donovan. I'm just trying to do my job." "Your job," Donovan sneered. "Taking pictures and making notes while men like me clean toilets. There's no shame in honest work. Save the sermon. You don't know what it's like? Watching everything you worked for disappear. This town's dying and nobody cares." For the first time, Andre heard something beyond anger in Donovan's voice. Genuine pain. The grief of a man who'd lost his place in the world. It was a feeling he understood all too well. "I know more than you think," Andre said quietly. "When I left the military, everything I knew, everything I was good at, suddenly none of it mattered in the civilian world. Had to start over, figure out who I was without a uniform." Donovan seemed taken aback by the response. For a brief moment, something like understanding passed between them. Two men who'd lost their identities when the world changed around them. Then Donovan's face hardened again. "Save your stories. You're not welcome here. Neither are your kind." "My kind?" Andre's voice remained steady. "You mean veterans?" You know what I mean. Donovan stepped closer, lowering his voice. That stunt with the cop the other night? Won't happen again. We'll be seeing you real soon, Hayes. He walked away, leaving Andre to finish his assessment. The threat hung in the air, but Andre refused to let it distract him. He'd faced worse danger in places far from home. That evening, Andre stopped by Layla's classroom to return a book she'd lent him. She was working late, grading papers at her desk. How's the security assessment going? She asked, offering him a chair. Almost done. Should have recommendations by tomorrow. And how was your run-in with Donovan today? The teacher gossip network is very efficient, she added with a smile. Andre shrugged. No trouble. Just talk. Layla's expression grew serious. Be careful, Andre. Rick holds grudges, and he's got a lot of anger looking for a target. I can handle myself. I believe you can. But I don't want to see you get hurt because of this town's problems. Her concern touched him. It had been a long time since anyone had worried about his safety. In the military, danger was simply part of the job. I'll be fine, he assured her. But I appreciate the concern. They walked out together, chatting easily about books and movies. As they reached the parking lot, Andre noticed a car idling nearby, its headlights off. His instincts flared. Get in your car and lock the doors, he told Layla quietly. Then drive straight home. She followed his gaze to the car. Just do it, please. I'll call you later. Layla hesitated, then nodded. Be careful. As she drove away, Andre walked calmly toward his own vehicle. The other car's engine revved and it pulled out of the shadows. Through the windshield, Andre could make out 3 figures. Donovan wasn't among them. But he recognized the heavy-set man from the confrontation 2 nights ago. This time there was no Officer Chen to intervene. Andre knew he had a choice to make. Avoid the confrontation or face it head-on. Years of combat experience had taught him that sometimes the only way to prevent violence was to meet it directly. He set his bag on the ground and turned to face the approaching car, standing his ground beneath the yellow glow of the parking lot lights. The car circled Andre like a shark, headlights suddenly flaring to life and blinding him momentarily. He remained still, his shadow stretching long across the empty school parking lot. The vehicle stopped about 20 feet away, and 3 men climbed out. The heavy-set one Andre remembered from before, along with 2 new faces he didn't recognize. Well, look who's all alone, the heavy-set man called out. No cops to save you tonight. Andre said nothing, watching them approach. His mind was already calculating distances, angles, potential weapons, but a larger part of him, the part that had seen too much violence, caused too much pain, was looking for another way. Your boss send you? Andre asked, his voice steady. Or did you come up with this bad idea all on your own? The heavy-set man's face darkened. Rick doesn't know we're here. This is personal. You embarrassed me the other night. You embarrassed yourself, Andre corrected. Go home. This won't end well for you. One of the other men, a wiry guy with a scraggly beard, pulled out a baseball bat. Hear that, Tom? The soldier boy thinks he's tough. Tom, the heavy-set man, cracked his knuckles. 3 against 1. I like those odds, Andre sighed. Some people never learned. Last chance to walk away. They responded by spreading out, trying to surround him. Andre had faced worse odds in Afghanistan against fighters with actual combat training. These men were fueled by alcohol and wounded pride, dangerous but undisciplined. The man with the bat moved first, swinging wildly. Andre stepped inside the arc of the swing, trapped the man's arm, and used his own momentum to send him stumbling forward. The bat clattered to the ground. Before the others could react, Andre kicked it under a nearby car, removing it from the equation. The third man rushed him from behind. Andre heard the footsteps, timed it perfectly, and sidestepped at the last moment. He grabbed the man's collar as he passed, redirecting him straight into Tom, sending both of them crashing to the pavement. I don't want to hurt you, Andre said calmly, but I will defend myself. The bearded man scrambled to his feet, now wary but still determined. You think you're so special with your military training? Let's see how tough you really are. He pulled out a knife, the same one Andre had spotted the other night. That's a bad decision, Andre warned, his voice dropping lower. The man lunged forward, slashing wildly. Andre evaded each swipe with minimal movement, conserving energy while his attacker grew increasingly frustrated. It was like a dance where only one partner knew the steps. Tom and the third man had regained their feet and were circling around to flank Andre. 3-on-1 against armed opponents required a different approach. Andre waited for his moment. When the knife wielder overextended on a thrust, Andre caught his wrist, twisted and disarmed him in one fluid motion that left the man gasping in pain. The knife now in Andre's hand changed the dynamic instantly. "Back off," Andre ordered the other two, who froze in their tracks. He tossed the knife into a nearby storm drain with a distant clatter. "We're done here." But Tom had other ideas. With a roar, he charged forward like a bull. This time, Andre didn't step aside. He met the larger man head-on, using Tom's momentum and weight against him with a perfectly executed hip throw that sent him crashing to the ground with Andre in control. A simple joint lock, painful but causing no permanent damage, left Tom immobilized and groaning. "Stay down," Andre told him quietly. "It's over." The third man backed away, hands raised. "Hey man, we're just messing around. No hard feelings, right?" Andre released Tom and stood up. "Get him to a hospital if his wrist keeps hurting. Might be sprained." The bearded man was already retreating to the car, cradling his injured arm. "You're crazy, man. This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Andre replied with certainty. "Tell Donovan if he has a problem with me, he can come himself next time. No more sending boys to do a man's job." He watched as they helped Tom into the car and drove away, tires squealing. Only when they were gone did Andre allow himself to feel the adrenaline crash, his hands trembling slightly as the combat high faded. He took a deep breath, centering himself the way he'd been trained. His phone buzzed with a text from Layla. "Are you okay? Should I call the police?" "I'm fine," he texted back. "No need for police. Heading home now." The drive home was quiet, Riverdale's streets nearly empty at this hour. Andre's mind kept replaying the fight, analyzing what he could have done differently, how he could have diffused the situation sooner. In the military, the objective was clear. Complete the mission, protect your team. Civilian life was messier, the lines blurrier. Back at his apartment, Andre found Walter Diaz sitting in the hallway outside his door. "Evening, Mr. Diaz. Everything all right?" The old man nodded. "Just keeping an eye out. Heard some of Donovan's boys were looking for trouble tonight. News really did travel fast in this town. I appreciate the concern, but I can handle myself." "Oh, I know that," Walter chuckled. "My nephew's boy is friends with David Chen. Told me how you nearly took down 4 men the other night without throwing a punch." He struggled to his feet, leaning heavily on his cane. "Just wanted to make sure you got home safe." Andre was touched by the gesture. "Thank you. Would you like some coffee? I was about to make some." They spent the next hour in Andre's apartment, Walter sharing stories of the town from decades past. There was a comfort in the old man's presence, a connection to a simpler time when Riverdale had been a community instead of a collection of divided factions. "Town wasn't always like this," Walter sighed. "Used to be people looked out for each other no matter what they looked like or where they came from." "What changed?" "Fear. When the factory closed, people got scared. When people get scared, they look for someone to blame." Walter's roomy eyes were sad. "Rick Donovan and his bunch, they feed on that fear. Give people a target for their anger. And the police do nothing? Chief Reynolds is counting the days till retirement. Doesn't want trouble." Walter shook his head. "But trouble's coming whether he wants it or not." After Walter left, Andre called Layla to let her know he was all right. She was relieved but worried. "This is getting dangerous, Andre. These men aren't going to stop." "I know." He stared out his window at the quiet street below. "But neither am I." The next morning, Andre dropped off his security assessment at the high school, carefully avoiding any interaction with Donovan. He spent the day at Richardson Security reviewing camera footage for a local bank that had reported suspicious activity. Around lunchtime, Bill stuck his head in Andre's office. "Got a minute?" Andre nodded and Bill closed the door behind him. "Heard about your excitement last night. Nothing I couldn't handle. I know that." Bill sat down heavily. "But this thing with Donovan is escalating. He's been telling people at the bar that you attacked his friends unprovoked, that you used special military tactics to seriously injure them." Andre's jaw tightened. "That's not what happened." "Of course it isn't, but Donovan's got a following in this town. People who want to believe the worst." Bill leaned forward. "I've known you since you were knee-high to a grasshopper. I know what kind of man you are. But be careful. Donovan's dangerous when he feels cornered." After work, Andre stopped by the grocery store. As he was selecting produce, he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find David Chen, the police officer who had intervened the other night. Mr. Hayes, David said formally. I need to ask you some questions about an incident last night at the high school. Andre nodded. Of course. Tom Miller claims you assaulted him and two friends without provocation. Says you used military combat techniques that caused serious injuries. That's not what happened. I figured. David glanced around the store. Look, I can't talk here. Meet me at the diner in an hour? At the diner. David sat in a back booth out of uniform but still carrying the alert posture of a cop. Andre slid in across from him. Chief wants me to bring you in for questioning, David said without preamble. 3 witnesses all telling the same story. You attacked them, used excessive force, threatened them with a knife. You know that's not true. I know. But the chief's under pressure from the mayor, who's friends with Rick Donovan's uncle. David looked disgusted. Small-town politics at its finest. So what happens now? Officially, I'm building a case. David pushed a coffee cup toward Andre. Unofficially, I'm warning you. Donovan's planning something. His crew's been gathering at his place all day. They're angry about what happened to Tom and the others. Andre took a sip of coffee. How many? At least 8, maybe more. Word is they're coming for you tonight. David leaned forward. I can't officially offer protection based on a rumor. And even if I could, the chief would shut it down. I don't need protection. No offense, but even with your training, those aren't good odds. Andre's face remained impassive. I've faced worse. David studied him for a moment. You really have, haven't you? He sighed. Look, I can't be there officially, but I can make sure I'm patrolling your neighborhood tonight. Best I can do. I appreciate it. As Andre left the diner, his phone rang. It was Layla. Andre, thank goodness. Have you heard what's happening? About Donovan? Yes, David Chen just told me. It's worse than that. They're saying you're dangerous, that you nearly killed Tom Miller. There's talk about running you out of town. Her voice was tight with worry. This is insane. It'll blow over. No, it won't. Not this time. There was a pause. Some of us are meeting at Ben's house tonight. Safety in numbers. You should join us. Andre considered the offer. It was tempting, the company of friends, a secure location. But bringing Donovan's attention to them would only put them in danger. Thanks, but I think I'll stay home tonight. Low profile. Andre, please. I'm worried about you. I'll be fine, he assured her. I'll call you tomorrow. Back at his apartment, Andre prepared methodically. He moved furniture to create clear sight lines, secured potential weapons, and identified exit routes. Not so different from securing a forward operating base in hostile territory. The thought made him pause. Was this what his life would be now? Constantly on alert, preparing for the next threat? As darkness fell, Andre positioned himself near the window, watching the street below. Walter Diaz had stopped by earlier, offering to stay, but Andre had sent him home. The old man didn't need to be caught in the middle of this. Around 10 o'clock, Andre spotted the first vehicle, a pickup truck moving slowly down the street, headlights off. Then another. And a third. They parked at intervals along the block, men climbing out and gathering in the shadows. Andre counted 12 figures moving toward his building. More than David had predicted, but still manageable if it came to a fight. But that wasn't what Andre wanted. There had been enough violence in his life. His phone buzzed with a text from David. On my way. 5 minutes out. Andre texted back, no, stay away. I'll handle this. He took a deep breath, centered himself, and opened his apartment door. Whatever happened next, he would face it head on. Andre stepped out of his apartment building into the cool night air. The streetlights cast long shadows across the sidewalk as he walked calmly toward the group of men gathering at the corner. He could feel their eyes on him, a mixture of anger and surprise at his willingness to meet them head on. Rick Donovan stood at the center of the group, his face twisted in a scowl. Look who decided to come out and play, he called, his voice carrying in the quiet night. Thought you might hide behind your door. I'm not hiding from anyone, Andre replied evenly. He stopped about 15 feet away from the group, hands relaxed at his sides. 12 against 1? That how you solve problems, Donovan? You hurt my friends. Donovan took a step forward. Used your fancy military moves on them. They attacked me. I defended myself. Andre's voice remained calm, just like I'll do tonight if necessary. A few of the men shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances. They'd heard about what happened in the school parking lot, how Andre had taken down 3 men without breaking a sweat. But Donovan wasn't backing down. You think you're better than us, Donovan spat. Coming back here with your war stories and your high-paying job. I don't think I'm better than anyone, Andre corrected. I just want to live in peace. Peace? Donovan laughed harshly. There's no peace left in this town. Not since the factory shut down, not since people like you started taking over. People like me? Andre raised an eyebrow. I grew up on the same streets you did, Donovan. My father worked at the same factory as yours. The only difference is what we chose to do when things got hard. Some of the men were listening now, their expressions uncertain. Andre had touched on something they all felt. The loss of the town they'd known. The struggle to find their place in a changing world. You left, Donovan accused. When things got tough, you ran off to play soldier while the rest of us watched everything fall apart. I served my country, Andre replied, a hint of steel entering his voice. Just like my father did. Just like your father did in Vietnam. They didn't raise us to become bullies who attack people in the dark. At the mention of his father, Donovan's face contorted with rage. Don't you talk about my father? He took another step forward, fists clenched. You don't know anything about me or my family. I know your father was a good man who worked hard, Andre said quietly. I know he wouldn't be proud of what you're doing now. Something flashed in Donovan's eyes, pain, maybe even shame, before anger swept it away. Shut up, he roared, lunging forward. Andre could have taken him down easily, could have ended the fight before it began, but he recognized the pain driving Donovan's anger. It was the same pain he'd seen in war-torn villages, in the eyes of men who'd lost everything and didn't know where to direct their rage. Instead of countering with force, Andre sidestepped the attack, letting Donovan stumble past him. Is this really what you want, Rick? To beat up a man who's done nothing to you? Will that bring the factory back? Will it make your life better? Donovan spun around, breathing hard. You think you understand? You have no idea what it's like to watch everything you care about disappear, don't I? Andre's voice softened. I spent 15 years fighting in places most people can't find on a map. Watched friends die. Came home to a country that didn't understand what we'd been through, then tried to build a normal life with no idea how to do it. He looked around at the group. We're all trying to find our way. But this, attacking people, spreading hate, that's not the answer. A few of the men were nodding slightly, their aggression fading. But Donovan wasn't ready to let go. Nice speech, he sneered. But words don't change anything. He gestured to his friends. Get him. Nobody moved. The men looked at each other, then at Donovan, then back at Andre, who stood calmly before them. Rick, one of them said hesitantly. Maybe we should just... Cowards! Donovan spat. Fine. I'll do it myself. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a knife, the blade gleaming under the streetlight. Andre's posture shifted subtly, his weight centering, his focus narrowing. This was no longer about words. Put it down, Rick, he said, his voice carrying a warning. This isn't a fight you can win. We'll see about that. Before Donovan could move, headlights swept across the scene as a police cruiser turned onto the street, followed by a second. The men scattered instantly, melting into the shadows and side streets. Only Donovan remained, the knife still in his hand, caught in the spotlight. Officer David Chen stepped out of the first cruiser, hand on his holster. Drop the weapon, Donovan, now! For a tense moment, Andre thought Donovan might do something foolish. But then his shoulders slumped and he let the knife clatter to the pavement. On your knees, hands behind your head, David ordered, moving forward to cuff him. The second officer began taking statements from those who hadn't managed to flee. You okay? David asked Andre as his partner led Donovan to the cruiser. Andre nodded. Perfect timing. I was already on my way when we got calls about a disturbance. Seemed someone was watching from their window and didn't like what they saw. David glanced toward the apartment building where several residents were now peering from windows or standing on the front steps. Among them was Walter Diaz, phone in hand. The old man gave Andre a small nod. Good neighbors are worth their weight in gold, Andre said with a smile. After giving his statement, Andre returned to his apartment. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him tired but relieved. He made coffee and sat by the window, watching as police cars came and went, picking up statements from witnesses. Around midnight, his phone rang. It was Layla. Andre? Ben just called me. He heard about what happened. Are you all right? I'm fine, he assured her. Donovan's been arrested. It's over, thank goodness. We were so worried. She paused. What you did?